Wow, they aren't kidding when they say there are a lot of people here. Good afternoon, and it is a truly good afternoon at St. Mary's College, and I'm just going to say it's a little overwhelming too. I just want to take a few minutes to say a few thank yous and to make some brief remarks. So first, the gratitude. To Gretchen Flicker and the entire board for your confidence in me. To Sister Veronique and all the members of the Sisters of the Holy Cross for their unwavering stewardship and loyalty to St. Mary's. The search committee, especially Chair Maureen Smith and Vice Chair Don Fisher. Interim President Nancy Neckvissel, what can I really say? She's an extraordinary leader who leaves the most important gift I could ever have, a well-run institution and a solid foundation for the future. Vicki Wickheiser and Michelle Egan, who indispensably support the overall search process and have since given support to me. And I have to say that the magic of this afternoon's event that somehow produced all of you belongs to Sherry Rodriguez and her team, who worked through illness and more to pull this off. And deepest thanks to my own loving family. Some are here today. My husband, Tom O'Grady, my mother, Tane Conboy, one of my three sisters, Missy Conboy, and her husband, Bill Mountford, and two of my nieces, Delaney and Killian. Oh, no, Killian. Sorry, I thought she was going to be here. These young women, they're very busy. As Gretchen already told you, Tom and I have three grown daughters of our own, and though they can't be here today, I want to thank them for their unwavering love and support. I'm certainly feeling the absence of my father. He died 2 years ago this week, but I brought him with me on my Apple Watch as a picture to remind me. He would be so proud. And finally, thanks to all of you for being here today, both to mark an occasion that has happened only 14 times in St. Mary's history, and also, I hope, to signal your interest in and commitment to this next chapter in our history. I am absolutely thrilled that I will get to write that chapter with you. Clearly, today marks a beginning, but in so many ways, it is for me also the completion of a circle, a homecoming. 40 years ago this year, I landed in this city to begin my PhD program at a little college and a university across the road. My now decades-long relationship to Holy Cross began at Notre Dame. Tom and I met there in our graduate program. We were married in the Basilica on campus. But professional life took us east. My career was launched, as Gretchen told you, at another Holy Cross institution, Stonehill College in Easton, Massachusetts, where I spent 13 years on the faculty and 13 years in the provost's office. 7 years ago, I left Stonehill for Simmons University in Boston, and I did that because I could see there a very different but equally compelling mission, women's education as the engine of social and economic empowerment. And now, St. Mary's offers the opportunity for me to combine my commitments to Holy Cross education and to women's education in my new academic home. Home is not a word I use lightly. As a military family, the Conboys relocated about 24 times. I might start a school grade in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and finish it in Charlottesville, Virginia, or attend a year of college in Kansas and go home for the summer to Heidelberg, Germany. In fact, when my parents moved to Holy Cross Village in 2017, it became their 28th home. I often think that my own adaptable spirit was forged in the life of an Army brat. I try to bring a sense of belonging with me wherever I go. And I anticipate my arrival at St. Mary's, as I'm anticipating it, belonging is actually top of mind for me, not for just myself, but for our whole community. I've spent my career thinking about the ways that a small college like ours, with a robust mission, can become a true home for its students, faculty, and staff, a place where everyone, with all their differences intact, still belongs. In our contemporary moment, I believe such spaces are essential and even sacred. So I ask you, 3.5 months before I actually arrive on campus, what kind of home do we want to build together? What kind of community do we want to be with and for each other? And also, how can we be open to change, even as we maintain our solid foundation? We won't answer those questions today, and even when we think we know the directions we're taking, I expect that the answers will emerge through the work. But I will offer 3 personal hopes. First, I hope we will foster a spirit of togetherness and belonging. If it's not heresy for our students, I'll suggest that we might want the opposite of the sorting cap in Harry Potter. Perhaps it's a mixing cap we want, a mingling and uniting effort rather than a separating one. Perhaps instead of multiple houses, we want one house. No Gryffindors or Slytherins, just one St. Mary's home. I'm sure many of you have read Abraham Lincoln's powerful House Divided speech, which took its theme and its warning from the Gospel of Mark. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Well, I'd like to think our togetherness will come from a deep civility that can listen to ideas other than our own, that can disagree forcefully when necessary, but preserve the fabric of our relationships. I can tell you, I will be looking for perspectives other than my own. I'm looking for people who will challenge me. I'm going to stick with Lincoln and remember that he was also the president who assembled a team of rivals. So whatever our differences, we have all chosen St. Mary's. We all belong under this roof. Second, I hope that our community continues to be one of moral imagination, one that can take its powerful and positive community commitments and model them outside the walls of the college. We live in a time of social isolation, what some have even called a crisis of loneliness. It's hard for me to believe it's been 20 years since Robert Putnam published his astonishing study, Bowling Alone, The Collapse and Revival of an American Community. Putnam's book is all about the decline of social capital, the erosion of formal networks of people who forged civic responsibility through their connections. Having 1,000 people in your LinkedIn network doesn't amount to a hill of beans if you don't have people you are actually in community with, people you can count on and who count on you. We need real links to other people if we want true belonging. And belonging is amplified, Putnam says, when our links are enriched by civic virtue and deepened by reciprocal obligations. And finally, I hope we can also work up an appetite for change, that we can approach renewing and renovating our St. Mary's home with excitement and openness. The Sisters of the Holy Cross set the cornerstone here, and their mission is one of adaptability, of continuously responding to the needs of the times. They have been unafraid of change, and we should model their spirit. As we spend more time together, you'll learn that I read a lot of poetry. Today, I'm thinking about the work of the Irish poet Seamus Heaney. He has a wonderful poem that speaks to what can happen when we open ourselves up to change. There are copies of this poem on cards that you can pick up as you leave today, but I'm going to read the poem now. It's called The Skylight. You were the one for skylights. I opposed cutting into the seasoned tongue and groove of pitch pine. I liked it low and closed, its claustrophobic, nest up in the roof effect. I liked the snuff dry feeling, the perfect trunk lid fit of the old ceiling. Under there, it was all hutch and hatch. The blue slates kept the heat like midnight thatch. But when the slates came off, extravagant sky entered and held surprise wide open. For days, I felt like an inhabitant of that house where the man, sick of the palsy, was lowered through the roof, had his sins forgiven, was healed, took up his bed, and walked away. Heaney's poem reminds us that it's easy to settle into the familiar, to prefer the arrangements we've always known. His speaker resists putting in a skylight because he likes it low and closed. He likes the perfect trunk lid fit of the ceiling. That's the house he feels like he belongs in. But when the slates came off, he's filled with astonishment. He recalls the Gospel of Luke, where a paralytic man is lowered through the roof by his friends to be healed by Jesus. And the feeling among all present is one of wonder. And that's what I wish for all of us, that we foster a spirit of togetherness and belonging under our St. Mary's roof, that we make our walls permeable and share that spirit with the broader community, and that we be willing to change, to cut a hole in the roof if necessary, to invite wonder and surprise into our midst, and perhaps to find ourselves transformed in the process. I look forward to working with all of you, and thank you.